All right, folks, another episode here of Stroke of Success. Your host, KB. Guys, as you all know, my mission with this podcast of mine is to interview entrepreneurs that have come from setback like mine, any setback, any resistance in their life, and they overcome it, and then they're standing and they're winning. They're my guests, and today's guest is very special for me. Actually, I even called the gentleman for a mentoring session one time. I reached out to him quite a bit here and there. When I first heard his story, my last brokerage, I was so moved. So every time I spoke in front of my agents, I would bring his story up to them to say, hey, here's an example of an individual who came from nothing and worked his ass off to bring it to here. So welcome, Derek, to our podcast today. Thank you for jumping in, man.
Yeah, absolutely, KB. Appreciate you having me. And I saw you doing your podcast here in the last couple months, and excited for you, man. And I'm glad to jump on. And I'm honored to be a guest here.
Awesome. Yeah, Derek, I have a feeling you'll be a usual normal guest on my podcast. Pretty soon, I'm building a studio, so we'll have a face-to-face and a long-form conversation. But until then, we'll do it on virtual right now. So, Derek, talk to me, man. You come from Virginia?
Yes.
What part?
Yes. So the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia. So it's like the western side of Virginia, but don't get it twisted. It's not West Virginia.
Two different
Okay.
things.
We're not in West Virginia.
Yeah.
So it's in the mountains. It's a country area. There's farms. Okay, so we'll give your listeners this will give them a good idea of where I'm from. So in high school, the high school that I went to, they actually had a drive your tractor to school day in high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
There you go.
Wow. That's far from the city block, huh? Oh, man. Derek, what type of family? I mean, you had a blue collar family, upper class politicians, or what type of family you come from?
Yeah, so a very blue collar family. Like, my family, the definition of hard work was like, hey, Derek, go out and get your hands dirty and dig a ditch kind of thing. My parents are extremely hard workers. And now they get on me today like, Derek, why do you work so much? I'm like, dude, I got it from you. Like, what do you mean?
DNA.
So my dad has worked construction. He's a master plumber. He's been plumbing his whole life.
Gotcha.
And his dad, my other side of the family, they worked in factories. My mom was an office worker. She worked in a bank as well. So very, very, very blue collar.
Okay. Awesome. So full collar work. Big family, a lot of brothers and sisters.
So I have one sister. She's younger than me, but that's it. That's my only sibling.
Okay. So how were your grades in school?
So in high school, I was actually okay. So I got pretty good grades in high school. I actually did. But with I would literally put the least amount of effort in, and to get it done, I had people help me with assignments and things, but I understood. And a problem I had in high school was that I had this disease. I wanted to fit in and be like everyone else so bad. So it was easy for me to adopt, like, oh my gosh, let's do well in school. And look, I hated every single bit of it. I hated it.
Yeah.
The only thing I enjoyed in like middle school and high school, we used to do this thing called mini society. Did you ever do that?
No.
So you come up, like, the class comes up with their own currency, and you're basically an entrepreneur. You start a business.
Okay.
And I always did super well when we did those things, like the business or whatever item that I created. I always cleaned up. I always ended up with the most money after every time that we did that. I had so much fun doing that.
That's awesome. Okay, good stuff. So is that what the entrepreneur bug bit you, or the started processing, or not really?
So I don't think that was specifically it. I think I've always just had this
Interest.
I don't know, this gnawing thing inside of me that told me like, hey, Derek, you're gonna, like, it's always told me that I was meant for more. Like I always knew that I was going to do something big. I always knew I was going to be something. I didn't know what that was, but I always, I was always so fascinated with like musicians and artists and things. And like, I'm like, man, these guys are building up this fame and they're doing well and they're successful. I was always fascinated by like sports stars, Michael Jordan and Allen Iverson, two of my favorite players.
Nice too.
And like they had their own shoes and clothes. And I was just really fascinated about the greatness that I saw.
Mm-hmm.
And, I always had this thing inside of me that told me I was going to do something one day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Greatness. So you have something jumping inside of you at a young age, but you don't know what it was. So let's talk about that. What brought you to Florida?
Yeah, so when I was in Virginia, I had actually went to college in South Carolina. Didn't finish college, so throw that out there. I didn't finish. We'll get into that maybe, but who knows? But so I didn't finish college. I moved back to Virginia. I was partying too much in college, having a lot of fun, getting messed up on the weekends every night. Went back to Virginia and started doing the same thing, hanging out with the wrong people, getting messed up every night. Um, it was bad. I mean, it was really, really bad. And if you look at I need to find this and put it on the post. I have my old driver's license from when I went to school in South Carolina.
Okay.
And the picture on my driver's license,
Yeah.
like if you would have seen this guy, wasn't me. It was a different guy. Like I was
Wow.
pale, like my skin was gray. It was pale. I looked terrible. Um, and so when I moved back to Virginia, I was doing the same shit I was doing there. Sorry, I don't know if we can curse.
Please. Full
Okay. So yeah, was doing the same stuff that I was doing in South Carolina. And again, that gnawing thing inside of me, it was like, okay, like I knew I was gonna do something. And I knew I was gonna get myself out of this mess at some point. And then I had actually started studying some like spiritual stuff and some personal development stuff, just like light on the surface kind of thing. And I had a friend that I went to college with, I just told you what I was doing in college. So he actually said, he's like, hey, man, I got a place, a condo here in Florida. You can move down here. You don't have to pay me rent for, a couple of months until you find a job. You should come down. And I'm like, okay. I had just gotten my tax return of about $300. That's all the money I had. My parents didn't believe I was moving to Florida. And they were like, dude, you can move, but we ain't giving you any money. Maybe they gave me $100 or something. So maybe I had $400, 200 bucks, maybe I had $500. Not a lot. And my now wife, her and I were dating at the time. I told her, I was like, look, a chance, I got to get out of here. And my whole idea, KB, is that when I said I'm going to Florida, I'm like, okay, this is my chance. I'm going to stop with the partying, stop with the drinking, stopping with the drugs and all of that shit. And I was like, I'm going to Florida and I'm going to stop that and I'm going to make something of myself. So that's generally what brought me to Florida.
The intention. You had a clear cut intention. Your intention to do that.
Yep.
And by the way, remind me, you don't drink now either, right? You completely stopped drinking.
No, I don't drink. Yeah, I haven't drank since. Let's see, it's coming up on 6 years now, dude. In June, it'll be 6 years. And if you ask people that know me in Virginia and like, maybe they don't know this, but if they're like, I'm like, hey, I don't drink anymore. I haven't drank in 6 years. They'd be like, oh, come on.
Really?
No way. Derek Vickers, really?
Really? Is that funny?
Yeah.
Question: Did you have a problem, like a substance abuse problem, or was it personal distraction?
Yeah, well, so look, if it was an outsider looking in, they'd be like, yeah, this guy's got a problem.
Gotcha.
Compared to someone who doesn't do anything, they'd be like, yeah.
Mhm.
But again, I always had that thing inside of me that told me that, hey, I could control this. I could stop this at any point in time. And so to me, I didn't, because I knew if I could fix it.
Yeah.
But I just didn't for whatever reason. But it was really just a personal choice, because I knew that I wasn't going to get to the goals that I wanted. I knew I wasn't going to be able to shift my mentality to where it needed to be while I was doing all this other stuff. And no, look, that's not, I know there's people that are really successful that drink, and it's
You're right.
fine.
They do stuff.
Just for me, it doesn't work, because like I'm an all in kind of guy. Like, I was obsessed, and that was my partying and all that stuff. Now I have, my addiction is business,
Money.
and I get more joy out of that and just learning and growing and going through problems than I did doing the other stuff.
It's interesting, Derek. Patrick, Patrick, but David, he's a big time entrepreneur. I post his thing
Yeah.
all the time. Yeah, he stopped drinking. A lot of entrepreneurs, I'm finding out more and more nowadays, our age group, 30 to 40, they stop drinking. That's interesting. That's a good thing, I guess, right? Because look, there's no value in alcohol. There's nothing, right?
No, no.
Yeah,
Let's put a column up, KB, and say, what are the pros and what are the cons of
sure,
drinking?
sure,
You
sure.
can come up with 50 cons. Pros, I mean, makes you more
100%.
social, but
That's
if it
about it.
makes you more social, then my next question is, why aren't you social sober?
Sure.
Like,
Yeah,
so
something wrong there.
yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Right.
So you moved here. I know your wife now was your girlfriend back then. You got your own apartment eventually, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You got into sales. How did you get into sales? What sales job did you start with?
So it was insurance sales.
Okay.
And excuse me, like I told you before, I started reading books, doing a little personal development.
How much,
And
Derek?
I
Talk
read a
to me.
book.
Break it down for
What's
me.
that?
How many time did you spend back then in the beginning to personal development? An hour a day?
No, well, no, it was, so what I did is it was gradiently. So I started reading 10 or 15 minutes a day, and I started listening to stuff instead of listening to, you know, rap music where they're talking about drugs and sex and prostitute, all this stuff. Look, I love rap music. I still
Me
listen
too.
to it when I work out.
Yeah.
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 But at that point, I needed more. I'd gotten tons of negativity poured in. I needed some more positivity
Sure.
poured in. So I actually, whenever I was driving around in the car, I started listening to Zig Ziglar was like my first thing,
The
or
goat.
See You at the Top.
The goat.
I forget his like little 4 hour thing, but I started listening to him, some Brian Tracy,
Oh boy.
Napoleon Hill.
Oh
That's
man.
got me through like some really shit times in the insurance business.
That's insane.
And
Greatest, greatest. You said you read one book. I cut you off. I'm sorry. So you about to go somewhere.
okay, no
Okay.
worries.
You said you read one book that changed your life. Or you were about to say something before.
No, I started reading a little bit every day. It was grading. I started to do 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and I forced myself to do that
Mm,
over time. And I started, reading books and things. And I think Think and Grow Rich was really good because it introduced me to, some like spiritual aspects of success
yeah,
and things. And I think that's a big part of, creating success
I agree.
generally, because you can be successful if you're good, but not good spiritually. Like, you can be a freaking wreck at home and not be comfortable. Like, I've talked to people that are, that are worth, 40, 50, $60 million. They're not comfortable doing this. Like, they're not comfortable talking in front of people. Like, there's issues, right? And so I think that, from a spiritual perspective, I'm of the belief is that if you fix the spiritual, everything else will line up and take care of itself.
100%. I
Typically
agree.
the things that manifest in the physical universe come from you as a spiritual being, in my opinion.
Mine's too.
So I think, yeah, a lot of the problems that people have in things, I think it's rooted spiritually,
So
for sure.
law of attraction, law of attraction, you're familiar with that philosophy. What you put your mind
Yeah,
to, you attract, right? Intention. You don't manifest what you want, you manifest what you are. But
correct.
it's insane, Derek. 30, 40, $50 million guy cannot go on a podcast, cannot go in front of 10 people and talk, but he or she manifested 40 million. That just shows you can still manifest great things. But like you said, if you're not spiritually sound, um, the quality is much lower. Are you religious at all, Derek? What do you believe in religion, organized religion?
Yeah, I'm very spiritual. You
Okay,
know, I wouldn't say I'm religious, but I'm a very spiritual individual for sure.
awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. So okay, so you started doing self development. The mind started working. Let's go to the topic of where the girlfriend then said some few words to you. I love the story. I heard it last time. That were like, you know what? You're like, you know what? Dan, this is it. Talk about that.
Yeah, so there was a day. This is one of my really, really dark low points. You know, I was still drinking and stuff on the weekends. So I'd go out and get plastered on Friday and Saturday, take off on Friday. I was working sales and insurance. So I was, doing personal development, but still, not working Fridays, getting drunk on the weekends, and wasn't doing well. Wasn't doing well at all. First year in insurance, made 13 or 18,000 bucks. Whew. Um, yeah, so there was a day I had to go, I had to pay rent on Friday. So I was going out to prospect businesses. I had a Trailblazer, so it was a freaking gas guzzler. I had, a few bucks on one credit card and like a few bucks on a debit card account. And I had to go to the gas station, put a couple bucks of gas on each card to get out to go freaking prospect that day. I didn't get anything that day, and I remember pulling in the parking lot. I remember exactly where it was in Orlando. It was at the old Panera on the corner of Orange and Michigan. I pulled into that parking lot, and I called my grandmother. I was almost crying, and I asked her for money. She sent me 50 bucks, 100 bucks or whatever. And then after that, I'm like, dude, you got to fucking get it together. You're 24 years old and you're calling your freaking grandmother for money. Now, Nanny, who's my grandmother, God bless her soul, was a fantastic human being. And she wasn't not going to send it to me. And I knew that. But I felt terrible after I did it. And I get home that night and I'm just beat up. I've got parents and things telling me, hey, even my grandmother's like, hey, you need to get a real job. You need to get something on the side that you have money coming in. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Okay. Not doing that. And then so I call my wife, looking for sympathy. Of course, I'm like, okay, someone's going to give me sympathy. My wife. And I call her and like, oh, I'm not getting any sales. I'm not making any money. And she punched me in the mouth, dude. She said, you're a fucking loser. You can beep that out if you want to. She was like, my friend that works at Lowe's makes more money than you do. And I'm like, oh my God. I mean, she just mocked me right there. And yeah, and so that was the point that I was like, dude, I gotta get it together. And look, KB, it didn't happen overnight. The sales calls were still freaking rough the next day. They were rough the next week. They were rough the next month. They were rough the next 6 months, really. But it was a step I needed to take because I started working on Fridays. I started to progress more towards even more personal development, even more, reading books and better developing myself. And so it led to that. And I consistently started to get better. But that was really a low point for me that kind of catapulted me to really start going.
It was a catalyst that pushed you a little bit more. By the way, she was your girlfriend back then, right?
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
She's my wife now.
You guys living together or just separately?
No, she was still in Virginia at that time. She hadn't moved down to Florida yet.
So, bro, Derek, another point I want to make to my audience. your girl Jazz has been with you before everything you have made right now.
Correct. She was with me
Wow.
when I was a big time loser. When I was a big time loser. Like I remember there was one time that we went out to dinner for I don't know, one of their birthdays, and we went to Outback, and I got mad at her because she ordered like an expensive steak, the expensive steak from Outback, because I didn't have any money. Like I had barely any money.
Your money.
And I just had this scarcity mentality, which still you battle with. It's not as bad, but like you still battle with that from time to time. But yeah, and she's still stuck. She's going strong, baby.
That's awesome. God bless you. And you got a baby recently, right?
Yeah, we have two babies now. We have a 6-week-old and a 2 and 4 months.
That's
Almost two and
awesome.
a half, I guess.
You have plans to have more kids?
Yeah, I think my wife wants 4. We'll see. We'll require some staff around the house more
Yes.
often.
I'll tell you
We have
that
a
much right
babysitter
now.
now, but
Oh, you have a babysitter at home and a nanny?
yeah,
You need one. Baby number 2, you need some help around the house. Yeah.
for sure, for
That's
sure.
awesome. So you went to Affleck's. I think your first year you made like I think I remember from the interview, past interview, it's 10,000 or 18,000 maybe.
Yeah, it was like 13 or 18,000. I think I
Got it.
still have that 1099 somewhere. I need to make a
You
post
should.
about that.
You
Yeah,
should. You should do a whole reel about your history. That'd be awesome.
yeah.
With that being said, second year, do you remember how much you made?
It moved up a little bit. I think I was in the 20s the second year,
Okay.
something like that.
Third
Yeah.
year?
Third year, I think it was 40. I think I hit 40 that year.
Okay.
And then the fourth year, it was between the third and fourth year, I started to go. And I think I hit, I don't know, maybe I cracked almost 100 in the fourth year, but at the end I was making, 350 to 400K after I had 100 salespeople under me. So, it was, good money depending on who you're talking to. It's all relative, right?
Right.
The guy who makes 50
You'll
and
love it.
spends 50, like there's no difference than the guy who makes 400 and spends 400 than the guy, it's just they're just going out to eat at different places.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah.
Insane.
So,
Okay. How old were you when you said, you know what? I arrived. I arrived to the beginning of my journey. How 26, 27, 28?
when I arrived in my the
In your
real
mind,
arrival
you
to the,
six figure money's coming in. You are a leader. Your mind's like, okay, you know what? I guess I deserve to be here. Maybe this is for me. Maybe this is working out. You know what? Let me go full force. Like, what was that? Year 4, year 5?
well, I mean, yeah, it was probably going into it was probably year 3 where I really decided I'm going full force. Year 3, year 4. But I'll tell you, KB, I've never really been like, okay, I've arrived.
Of
I'm
course.
here. Like it's always just like, freaking this morning, I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude. Like we need to get freaking we're not.
Next
Oh,
level.
I gotta move.
Next
Like
level.
we're not. I'm not even anywhere close to where I need to be right now,
Yeah.
and I battle with that a lot.
Something you taught me, the mentor, a few months we talked about, a few months back we talked. He said, "KB, think big, think fucking huge." And you told me yourself, the one thing you regret is you didn't think big enough back in your time, early days, years, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I write down my goals every morning and every night, and I've been doing that for years. So when I first started doing that, I have goal books, and I was writing hey, I have a net worth of $500,000. And that was, I should have been writing, $1 billion then, right? Because it stretches your mind and it adjusts your mind. And then, you get consistent with it. You'll eventually start to put yourself in situations to where you actually can see this now, learning what billionaires do, learning what they do with their money, learning what they, then you can kind of start to see this stuff, right? But you can't see that if you're writing down 500 grand, because the guy makes 500 grand or is worth 500 grand. Worth is even less like than that. So the guy who's making 500 grand or even, worth 500 grand, like it's a different world. It's a different world, different thought process.
100%.
And so that was, I spent a couple years doing that. I'm like, okay, well, that's achievable. Like, that's, yeah.
Did you meet people? Like, I'll give you an example. I met a lot of people I met in the last 5 years that when I found out what they made, the lifestyle they're living, I'm like, whoa. And just like you and me, they go to the bathroom like we do, they eat like we do, they do everything like we do. I mean, honestly, I have a master's. The guy I'm talking about, he's like just like you, probably high school graduate, right? Did you meet people like that and say, wait a minute, they're doing that? They're worth 10 billion, whatever. Do you meet people like that quite often?
So I'll tell you, and just kind of so I met people. So when I really started to jump my thinking up and do like different things, so I looked up to some other people in the insurance business, and I'm like, man, I want to be these guys. I want to be this top executive is making $1 million a year, or whatever. And then I would go meet with these guys because our team was doing well. We were crushing it in every aspect of the business. And so I was able to get meetings with these guys, and I was excited, talking to them, asking them where they invest their money, how are they building wealth. And none of these people freaking knew anything. They're like, I got a financial guy that takes my money. I'm like, dude, I do not want to be you. So that was a quick realization for me. I'm like, and these guys are getting freaking drunk all the time. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to be you. I don't want to make $1 million a year salary, get 400K taken by Uncle Sam, and you feel good because you drive a Range Rover and you buy your wife Gucci, and like, I didn't want that. I wanted more because that's not freedom. That's golden handcuffs, really. And after, yeah, and after, people say what you want about him. After I found and landed upon Grant Cardone, like, he really taught me to think big. He's like, dude, you need to get off your ass, quit thinking small, and you got to get these bigger goals, because if you have $1 million, like, it ain't nothing.
Nothing.
Like, it's nothing. And I know people that your listeners that may be hearing that they don't have $1 million, and you're like, wow, dude, if I had $1 million right now, I'd be, dude, I'm telling you, like, it's it's nothing today, right? And
Today's market, especially back then, your time, you're probably talking 10 years ago. Even 10 years ago, it wasn't nothing much. But now it's nothing. Like, let's be honest, right? With inflation and everything going on in the world. Grant Cardone, talking about that, Derek. I mean, I know self-development is investment, right? I'm a big fan of Patrick Bet-David. He's my guy. I love Uncle Grant.
Yep.
He's awesome. I love a bunch of these guys, Ryan Stewman. But like Patrick's, I went to his show. I invested in some of his coaching. People come to me like, "Hey, why are you doing that, man? It's so much money, and he's not gonna make your money for you." And they don't understand, right? Like, did you invest a lot of money in Grant Cardone in the beginning, or now even you get coaching from him? I mean, and by the way, did the investment pay off?
Yeah, I've spent tons of money on personal development, hundreds of thousands of dollars on personal development, and every penny of it has paid off. Like, there's no question. It's not even it's not even on the chart. Like, it's not even there. And for a couple of different reasons that I'll explain, is that one, like, I bought shitty programs and learned one thing from it's worth $1,000, right? I'm telling you, data and information and knowledge and skills are super, super, super important. You never lose that, right? You say, oh my God, I'd rather spend my $2,000 on, something. I don't know, something dumb, right? It's gonna lose its luster really, really fast. You never go down in value. Like, if you gain more confidence, if you can gain more certainty, that's actually more valuable than money. Like, you're never without anything. Like, you could, if you were stripped away of everything right now, but if you're a confident, you're certain, and you know that you can go make things happen, you're never broke. You're never broke. Yeah. So that's one. And then number two, there's something that happens when you say, hey, I believe in myself. Boom, I'm going to spend 10 grand on this. Right. And again, in the scheme of things, dude, it's nothing. Like if you're trying to get to $1 billion and you spend $1 million in personal development, what that's
No
what are we
brainer.
talking about?
It's a no brainer.
What are we talking about? Right. And I think that's where people get screwed up is they start to think about, oh, I'm not going to spend $1,000. Oh my God, I'm not going to spend $500. Then, dude, you're basically saying to yourself that you don't like the goals that you say you have. You're saying to the universe or whatever, I don't care what you believe in.
God, whatever.
You're saying to that, you're saying that I don't believe in myself. So, yeah.
And so everything you're asking for, you want to manifest, you're actually doing the opposite, right? But you're saying I want $1 million, I want a Lamborghini, I want this. Then Tony Robbins comes up, Grant Cardone comes up, Grant Cardone, Derek Vickers programs comes up, asking for $1,000 for a coaching call. You're like, I don't think I can do that. You're right. By you doing that, you're telling the universe or God or whatever you believe in, higher power, that hey, I don't believe in myself.
Yeah. No, 100%.
And your reality be manifested according to that. Insane, man.
For sure.
Derek, how long you with Affleck? How long you stay in the insurance company for, in the business for?
Yes, so I was there for too long. I stayed for almost 10 years.
Okay. You retired.
9 years. Yeah, I retired. I started buying real estate after 8 years. And then I retired a year after that.
So when you leave insurance company, I know you have recurring revenue in agent guests, right? Do you still get
Yep.
it even though you're not working there anymore?
Yes, I still get that. And that's fine. It's great. You know, I appreciate getting that. But the issue that I had is that I didn't own the company. If I would have built my own insurance book of business, I could have sold it or hired someone else to run it, and it would still be cash flow, you know, a substantial amount. And that's the, you know, look, I learned a lot from that business. Don't get me wrong, but like you're essentially a glorified employee. You
Okay.
don't own the freaking business. You know, I was the entrepreneur. I had all the office expenses, the employees, and all that, but I didn't own the business. So that was, you know, and I had this, you know, sort of hunch that I'm like, dude, I need to go build my own brokerage like 4 or 5 years into that business. And, you know, I never did it because for whatever reason. But knowing what I know now, I would have definitely did that.
Talk to me about that. So Affleck to compete in the marketplace with Affleck, I mean, you could open up a mom and pop shop and compete with them and still get market share.
Yeah, because you could offer multiple products and services because, you know, just like any other insurance brokerage, they offer health insurance, life insurance, and Aflac and other things too. Because Aflac may not be a good fit, but if it's only you know, if that's the only tool in your holster, then
You're
you know,
limited.
right.
You're limited. Okay, interesting. So I'm sure that insurance business is so lucrative for my listeners. I got approached by them many times before I got into real estate. Sometimes I do think sometimes maybe I should have got that route. I don't know, but it's a good business to get into. People give it a bad name because they say, oh, I got into it, I made no money. You got into it and made no money because you did not do the daily things that it takes. The problem, I think, Derek, and I'm going to jump in here for a second. The reason people don't make money in sales is that they know they don't have a boss really, and they just goof around. If a salesperson stops a real estate agent, for example, gets into real estate and treats his day like he's working for a 9 to 5 for his boss, there's no reason that he or she will not succeed. But the problem is they work for 1 or 2 hours, they barely prospect, they barely make a new contact, and they're off to either working out, IG, TikTok, all that stuff. So would you agree with that, Derek? What's your thoughts on that?
For sure. I had this conversation with people I would recruit all the time because it's like if you're, but this is the problem, KB, is that when someone's working a 9 to 5 job, typically it's mindless. Typically, they're not actually working for 8 hours. So when you get into a sales business and you actually work for 2 hours, you're like, shit, like this is tough. Like I know that because I was the guy who went and worked 2 hours and then went and worked out or, started doing something else. I was that guy. And it was because I hadn't built up a muscle of, persistence and courage and, because you get your act in sales. I mean, let's just call it for what it is. You do.
100%. You said something really important, the muscle. So I'm going to go back to Derek's topic quickly, guys. My listeners, my viewers, listen to this. A few minutes, about 10 minutes before now, Derek talked about to believe in yourself. It's called a money mindset, and this is what I learned from I think Tony Robbins. That every day you do your goals, you do your affirmations, you do your gratitude list. What that would do, your money mindset, your money muscle will get stronger and stronger and stronger. For example, if you're starting off in sales right now and you're a 22, 24-year-old individual, listen to us, you're probably thinking, hey, 50,000, 75,000, I'm living it up. If I can make 75,000, I'll be awesome. The mistake you're doing is that you're limiting yourself. But it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's like you're telling me to lift 50 pounds, but I never lifted 20 pounds. So for me, I'm like, I'm gonna do 50. I never did 20. Derek, how do you expect me to make 100,000? I haven't made 60,000. So you have to slowly build piece by piece the money mindset, the money muscle. You agree?
Yeah, totally. And especially if you've been, you've been taught this money scarcity mindset your whole life by all the
We
TV
are.
you watched, all the music that you've listened to, all the books that you've read, all of it preaches what we see now as the middle class. I mean, that's just reality of it, dude. And they, like, I didn't really want to go down this road, but we will. I mean, that's unfortunately everything you see. Like my wife will be watching these stupid shows on TV, and I'll pick up something. I'm like, dude, why are you watching that show? Because it's literally teaching and really embedding in you a scarcity mentality, a middle class mentality. It'll be like these little digs and say, oh yeah, the rich are always the rich are bad people or something like that.
Exactly.
And for the person that's not conscious
Yes.
in watching that, they'll never pick it up, but it goes in. It goes in. And now when, 5 years down the road, because they've been watching this stupid shit, they see somebody that's rich and they're like, oh yeah, I don't want to be rich because rich people aren't happy. It's saying that to them in their head. Little do they know it was actually put in there, and it's not true. It's just false data.
I agree, man. I have a good friend of mine, one of my best friends, probably gonna watch this later on today. Me and him always have a debate. He goes, listen, man, like he goes, KB, people in India and Somalia, they have nothing, they're more happy. I'm like, man, you know what? I'm sure some of them are happy, they're content what they have. And by the way, I'm not saying that I'm billionaire in the US is always gonna be happy. I get it. But if you have to pick between being poor or being rich, I pick rich. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Right? It's like, first
There's
of all,
no
you should be
question.
no question. You should be happy no matter what. You should make the best of your situation. You should have a connection with something and say, you know what, I'm happy. However, I'm grateful. Not happy, I'm grateful, but I'm not content. I want more. I'm gonna try for more. Now look, people are gonna maybe send me texts and say you're wrong. Yes, some people in India, they can't really get out of the slums. People in Somalia and Russia, I don't know. I don't know how likely chances it has to leave the slum. But in America, so I'm talking about the US, the best country in the fucking world, United States of America, if you're in this country, you have every opportunity. And don't get me wrong, yes, the government has little loopholes to keep you trapped. Yes, companies have their agenda, but you can work your way around that.
100%. I mean, you've got the most opportunity that anyone has in America. You just have to get up and work for it. You know, there's going to be, just like you said, there's definitely things in place that sort of keep you there. But from what I've learned is that it's easier at the top. It was harder when I was basically the bottom of the totem pole in the insurance business, and then when I got up to being like a regional manager, it was easier to win because there was like less people going after more money. And the same thing with society today. Once you get up above a certain echelon, that's easier because there's less people going after more money. And at the bottom, everybody's just, you know, you got this many people fighting for this much money, right? So
Yeah, good
it's
point.
a big difference. And I think, you know, people they're like, you know, people and you know, your people are gonna probably hate me for saying this. But, you know, the people that say that they're fine, "Oh, I'm fine. I'm happy." Like, these people are literally just talking, like, about them. Like, they're not talking about, like, "Hey, you know, how can I help my church?" Or, "How can I help my, you know, my
Like
this
temple.
charity organization that I support?" Like, you and those people are the people that'll say, you know, they talk about, "Oh, well, you know, the wealthy people need to help you know, people in need more or something, right? Something like that. But
Yeah,
at the same time, they're like, I'm good. I only need my 50 grand. That's it. That's it. And you know, you give 20 bucks to your church every Sunday, like that's great, right? But what about giving your church writing your church $1 million check? How many people would that affect? Like your church would remember you for forever for doing that, you know, depending on, you know, what you're a part of or whatever. But I'm
I
just
agree.
giving an example of making a difference.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. To add to your point, like for example, I'm born Muslim. I consider myself a Muslim, but I call myself a spiritual Muslim. I believe in God, a higher power. I believe in prayer. I believe in manifestation. I believe in intention. I believe in gratitude. All these things. I believe in that the book of God is the book of God. And you can call it Christian, Hindu, Jewish,
Right.
whatever you want to call it. It's a different story, same message, right? With that being said, like you said, man, there's a people that I'm so happy. I make $50,000. I make $60,000. You should be happy, Katie. Why are you working so hard? Why is your wife working so hard? Why you gotta do this? However, and then the very funny thing they say, Derek, they say, oh, you know, Donald Trump should pay more taxes. Love, love him or hate him. Um, if an entrepreneur is making a lot of money. This is I'm gonna take you for example. Derek Vickers is selling a bunch of mobile home and is killing it, crushing it. Should she pay more taxes? No. Why? Just because you make more money? So the person that makes less money, who's less ambitious, who's lazy, and pretty much is floating through life, gets away with it. But this person here who sacrificed time. I mean, I heard of one of your reels on TikTok on IG. You don't do vacations. You like you work for your vacation. So like you're dedicating to your time. My point is this: we should look at entrepreneurs as people helping society. They're making
Yeah.
jobs. They're giving back
Right.
to the systems. Why give to the IRS? And I'm not saying to not pay taxes. I'm just saying be smarter about it. But we know, you and I both know, the government is not the best with managing funds and making good out.
That's pretty clear. I don't
Right.
care what side of the aisle you stand on. That's pretty clear. But you know, one thing I'll say too, KB, is the problem with the system is that it's backwards. Rewards and penalties. It rewards down statistics and it punishes up statistics. So, of course, here's a perfect example. I had, you know, a lady, I'm not going to get into it specifically, but, you know, she didn't want us to pay her more money because she would be in a higher tax bracket. So, therefore, she wouldn't be able to defer her student loans. So, like, that's a perfect example. Or like someone who, you know, they get a bunch of money back on their taxes for X, Y, and Z. So they have no incentive to go up because they're making 50 grand a year from doing nothing. Why would they go get a job making 20 bucks an hour which is, 35 grand a year, something without after taxes. So it's backwards, dude. They've got the system backwards, and it rewards people for not doing shit. And I'm comfortable saying this right now, and people will probably get pissed off about it.
Great.
And look, all for helping people, totally. But if you're smoking crack, you're sitting on your ass all day, you're not doing anything to read a book or better yourself or take advantage, you can go get a freaking sales job right now with no experience, no money, no nothing. Get on the phone and call people.
Or do a car
so
sale.
car sales, whatever, dude, whatever. Yeah. But people, I don't want to do that. I want to be a salesman. Oh, okay. Well,
so it's so funny. We had those handouts. COVID happened. A lot of money. People getting a lot of money. So you go to Millennium Mall here in Orlando, and the Gucci store where your wife goes to probably often. The Gucci, the Louis Vuitton. They probably know you by name over there. You go. So back in COVID time, they had limited people can go in the stores. So there'd be a whole huge line outside of people. And Derek, man, don't get me wrong. The type of people standing outside, I was like, man, you seriously, can you really afford Gucci? And the people got all this money and staying home, and they had to spend it, and they're going out. I'm sure some of them did have businesses and jobs, but some of them just didn't look like they had the money. But here's the thing. So here's my theory. Let me ask you your thoughts on my theory. I think the system wants you and me to be comfortable and not reach for the moons. And that's why they penalize the entrepreneurs and they give points to the ones that are in the system. 9 to 5, Friday night, I'm excited. 1 week vacation every year. I think that my theory, I could be wrong, is just a way to control community population. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I don't think you're off by any means on that. And you can say, people now, it's a word thrown around, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist then. And I'm like, dude, like, okay, when did it become like, do you ever lie to your kids and say, hey, the store's not open or something because we're not going to stop? You ever done that before, somebody?
I do. I'm guilty of it.
Exactly. Yeah. So you not think that the government does that, right?
Yeah.
Of course they do, right? Or you, like your leadership team at your company, you don't tell the staff something because you don't want to upset the boat, right? That something's going wrong internally with the company. People have had to have done that. So to think that the government does not do that, and like it's just it is what it is. But you can clearly see that there's stuff in place that is probably there to exert some kind of control on people. Yeah. I mean, there's no question. And I mean, I like, I don't like, I dislike politicians because I think, if you're a lifetime politician, like you had to kiss the ring to get there. You had to get that big donor money. You had to kiss the ring to get there. And I just don't trust that. To think I can't even relate to the person that's like, oh yeah, if the government said it, it's true. How do you know that? Have you ever even just thought for yourself for a second? Sure. Like, just like, think about why they would say that and why they wouldn't say it, and see, like, okay, they would say this because why, just a lot of stuff. If you just look, it doesn't make sense. From a logical perspective. And look, there's illogic for Republicans and Democrats. There's shit that doesn't make sense. There's hypocrisy on both sides. But I agree with you. There's truth in there, right? Sure. And you can sort of see, okay, like that's bullshit. And I think this goes back to opening yourself up spiritually and being able to actually understand and make decisions for yourself. Most people are thinking through other people and they don't even notice it. They're like, yeah, I'm not going to post that on Twitter because I'm thinking about my mom or Johnny over here, what they'll think. So you're not even thinking that thought. You're thinking through someone else.
Sure.
Right. And that goes to, people that if you say something against their beliefs, they're like, they're thinking through something else. Like they're not even thinking, like actually putting an actual thought into something from their own, their own thinking.
You're right. That's true. That's a really good point, man. I mean, I don't know. Derek, what's your thoughts about guns, gun control? Are you big into that whole topic? I mean, it's a really controversial topic right now. You have young kids.
Yeah, it's definitely controversial, man. But dude, I mean, look, I know tons of people with guns and they haven't killed anybody. They haven't shot anybody. I own guns. I've never shot anybody. I've never been at risk of shooting anybody. And we can keep diving too, because I think some of this problem is, I can't pinpoint exactly what it is, right? But it's definitely not the guns, in my opinion. I mean, the crazy guy, if he wants to go shoot up someplace, he's going to find the gun to do it. Like, you can still find the gun. Like, so banning guns, like, so think about it like, drugs are banned. How drugs are so prevalent in society, regardless of whether they're legal or not. So if you ban guns, it's going to be the same shit. There's just going to be a black market for it. And the same guy that wants to shoot up, a place wherever it is can still do that. And is still going to do that.
Hey, listen, if you take guns away, man, there's knives, there's bombs. You can go online and look how to make a bomb. I think the problem, in my opinion, with move on to another topic, mindset, mental health is a big topic in that, a big problem. We're not resolving it. Also, fatherless homes. A lot of homes right now don't have fathers, and there's a whole science behind that. We'll move on for that. So we have about 5 minutes left, Derek. Question: you left the insurance company, beautiful family set. You have a son and a daughter?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Son and daughter, perfect. What are you doing now? Playing golf? Playing volleyball?
Hell no.
Playing
No.
basketball all day long?
I had somebody, dude, no, man. I had somebody, the other day was like, hey, you want to go play golf? And I'm like, okay, I can play golf. I haven't played in a while, but I'm like, dude, like, I just can't, like, make sense of going out there for that long. And look, it's fine. I'll probably go play golf at some point, but I'm in real estate investing. So mobile home parks. So we own and operate about 2,000 units of mobile home parks across the Southeast. And so now we're looking to grow that business. And I'm working to get to the next level, dude. I've got the social media popping off.
I see that. Good job, by the way. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And it's going to keep coming. So, and so that's really cool, building a personal brand. And I think that'll have, long-term ramifications in a good way. So that's fun. I'm doing that. And just working to get to the next level, dude. I mean, it's, I told you this morning, I get up and I'm like, shit, man, like there's so much to do. Like, I'm not doing shit. Like, there's nothing. It's nothing. And so I always feel like I'm not where I need to be. And although I'm grateful for the strides that I've made, for sure, I just know that my potential is much higher than what I'm achieving right now. Like, I still think I'm playing way too small. Way too small.
You socialize at all?
Yeah, I do. I mean, when you say socialize, what do you mean?
A few friends, have dinner once, twice a week with them, boys' night out, take the wife out to movies.
Yeah. We do that. We do that from time to time. I don't really do any like boys' night out or anything. I don't even know what that would be. Like, whatever, we go out to dinner or something. That's fine. So not really.
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, I do yeah, I just, hang out with the family, work on business, think of new ideas, do personal development stuff. It's very important to me. And again, just working to get to that next level, because I'm playing in a freaking just small pond right now.
How old are you, Derek? How
I
old
got
are you right now?
34.
Well, you're
34.
You're young.
Dude, you're right. But then I see that, see these guys that are 25 and he's
26.
got $100 million business. And I'm like,
Flying
dude,
private,
Jesus Christ, man.
killing it, crushing it.
Yeah. And I see that and I'm like, dude, you got like, and I look at that and I'm like, man, somebody would look at that, and be like, oh my God, what is he doing? I'm like, man, what is that guy doing? Like, what does he know? He or she know that I don't? There's something, or what am I not doing? What information am I blocking right now? And a perfect example of that is I was at the 10X Growth Conference 3 or 4 years ago. There was a guy talking about doing branding, personal branding and social media, and how important it was and why you should do it. I didn't even hear the conversation then. I didn't even I don't know if I was there. I was sitting in the crowd, but I didn't even hear the conversation. I'm like, yeah, I don't need to listen to this. And that was actually the most important message I needed to hear in that conference, because I don't think there's much more important thing, a much more important thing that you can do right now than build a personal brand. It's
I
so
agree
vital.
100%. I agree with you. Branding has never been as important as it is now. Derek, you ever think about speaking on stage? Because I'm working on launching a mastermind. I feel like here in Central Florida, we don't have many of those. We have it in Tampa, we have it in South Florida, but no one comes here. You ever thought about going on stage and sharing a story for inspiration? And
Yeah, I would love to do that. I'd love, share my story, and if I can inspire someone that was in like the same rut that I was in, because I get it, dude. I was there. I was there. I wasn't homeless and laying on the street, but I had a freaking problem, dude, that took me a while to get over. Everyone has a different story. And just because you weren't, like some of these guys, they were homeless and whatever, maybe you've battled in other ways before.
yeah. Man, so let's recap. 400, maybe $500 in the pocket at that time to come to Florida, with the intention. You had an intention. It wasn't by accident. You had an intention to come here, clear your act up. Your wife, now girlfriend back then, was living there. It was a lot of bumpy roads up and down. One phone call was the catalyst to have the wheels start to move forward. A lot of self-development, self-help, a lot of investment in that. Killed it year 4 with Affleck, year 4, and never looked back. Before going, like, what would you get? What takeaway? What would you say with 3 things that KB? Anyone listen to this? Anyone watching this on YouTube right now on social media is focus on either this and this and this. I know one thing you talk about: do your goals every single day, daily goals, and I got that, and I do
Yeah.
that every day. Anything else?
Right.
Any takeaway? Anything else? Want to give 1 or 2 points?
Yeah. So I would say too is like, hey, actually, if you want to make $1 billion, or, be worth $1 billion or whatever it is, like map that out and break it down. It may take you a little bit of time, and break it down to the steps that you need to take today. So you can still be in the sales position and you have $1 billion goal, but the step that you take tomorrow will still move you into that direction. We already know what we need to do. We just do these other things and not these things.
I agree.
And so I would say figure out what those things are, staticize them, and track the statistics. If it's phone calls or whatever, track where you're going towards that every day. And then look at number 2 would be look at the information, like I just mentioned. Look at the information that you're like, I don't need to hear that. I don't need to listen to that. Look at that information, because not the information you're like, oh my God, I love what Tony Robbins said. Like, that's great. You need to look at the stuff that someone else said that you're like, I don't need to listen to that. Because with me, in my example, that screwed me for 3 years, because I wasn't doing the personal branding for 3 or 4 years, whatever it was. So number 2 would be look at the stuff that you don't want to look at. Look at the information that you're talking. And then number 3, I would say for people to, I mean, there's so many things I could give here, but just, and I know it's very cliche to think bigger. And you're like, well, yeah, maybe Derek, I think bigger. Well, maybe you don't, right? And sometimes I still, not to a degree, like if you write down $1 trillion on paper, when they're talking about it in the news, and when you see $1 billion or $100 million, you're not like, oh my God, $10 million. That is so much. You're just like, oh, okay, yeah, it's, you know, it's 100 million bucks. Like, you fix it in your mind and it's just a number. It's not like, it is what it is, right? And so that's why I say think big. Like, even if it seems ridiculous to you and you're writing down this crazy goal that seems ridiculous to you, just keep writing them, because it's like your rubber band is like this big and you're just stretching it out. You're stretching it out. And you know, we all have stuff in our heads that we need to get rid of. And you know, anyways, I know we have to go. I could just keep
I want to add to
flying,
that,
but
Derek, quickly. The last part you said, I mean, everything you said has been gold, man. The last part you said, I'm going to add to it. When you tell yourself, for example, if you're starting on a sales job, you make your last job, you made 40,000. You should reach for 3 times that for a goal for next year. I heard from, I think, Tony Robbins said it. But here's what's going to happen: whatever 3 times, 4 times, whatever $1 million goal you have, when you tell yourself that, when you write the affirmation, you write the goal, you're divided in two. You have the spiritual side and you have the ego. The ego will say to you, what the fuck are you wrong with you? You gonna make $1 million? Have you seen yourself? Have you seen your car? Have you seen the way you? No way, bro. People only, movie stars only make $1 million. Only Michael Jordan make, drug dealers. You have to sell your soul. You're fine. You're fine making $50,000. And what would happen? The other part of you, the spirit side, will say, "Wow, that sounds pretty cool. $1 million. Yeah, we can do this." And you'll start to get a little uncomfortable. The way to work is, with what I found with me, is to outdo the ego. The ego,
yeah.
that's your amigo. Will you agree about to that?
Yeah, 100%. Like, it's there. And you know, I don't have the, you know, the naysayer Derek in my mind as much. I've been able to sort of get rid of that. But yeah, you have to outperform that. And the best way to do that I found is just keep taking action faster, because you stay ahead of it so it can't creep in. Because the longer you wait to make that phone call, the more doubt that kicks in. So it's always in anything. You got to keep going. And one other thing I would say in closing is that, now I know you said, like, if you're somebody that's making, you know, 50 grand a year, and you're like, okay, I need to go to 50 grand a month. You know, how would I do that? What would that even look like? And so
Yeah.
in sales, this is easy. You can do
Right.
it by call calculation.
Sure.
If you're making 50 grand a year and making 100 calls a day, you know, to make 50 grand a month, you have to now make, I don't know, what is that? 500 or 1,000 calls a day, whatever it is, right? And then you're like, okay, how the hell do I do that? Oh, I got to hire some people to make calls. Oh, I got to hire an assistant now. So then you'll start operating and getting to that point, because it's a different thinking. But
Reverse engineer.
doing that,
Reverse engineer it.
yeah, reverse engineer it, and then it gets you thinking differently.
That's amazing tip. That's a really good tip. Derek, I can talk to you for hours, man. I swear to you, man. Your personality, the way you converse is amazing. And next time we'll do face to face, talk a little bit politics, talk about current events happening. I'm gonna pick your brain on that a little bit more. We barely touched the mobile home thing you're doing right now. I'll get into that more. So let's do this aim from the 30 to 45 days from now, once my studio's up.
Yeah,
and
let's do it.
I'm gonna have you come out and we'll do that, man. Thank you, Derek, for joining us here today. Another episode of Stroke of Success. Derek, where can we find you?
Yeah, so I'm definitely not hard to find. I'm on every single social media platform: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn. I don't know. I'm probably forgetting some. I'm doing articles on Substack. You can catch me at victoryrealestategroup.com. You can also email me at derek@victoryrealestategroup.com. I got all kinds of stuff, dude. It's crazy, man. Just putting out a lot of content. So I'm not hard to find.
Just getting started. I follow you on TikTok. I follow you on all social media. I love your social media, man. And good stuff, Derek. Thank you for jumping on, man.
Appreciate it,
Thank you
KB.
so much, man.